James Eugene Bigby, March 14, 2017. On December 24, 1987, Grace Keller returned to her Fort Worth, Texas home to discover the bodies of 26-year-old Michael Treckle, her boyfriend, and their infant son Jason. Forensic investigators later determined both deaths were homicides. 2 days later, on December 26, Fort Worth police responded to a standoff at a local motel. James Bigby eventually surrendered peacefully and shortly afterwards provided a written confession admitting to the murders. He was charged with the killings of Michael Treckle and his infant son, who he drowned. The mother of the infant confirmed that Bigby had been with her son shortly before his death. On the same day as the Treckle murders, Bigby also killed two other men, Wesley Crane and Frank Baba Johnson, although he was never charged in connection with their deaths. In his final words, Bigby apologized to Grace Keller and the families of Crane and Johnson. "I'm sorry it went on for a terribly long time. I hope that my death will bring you peace and closure. I hope that you could forgive me, but if you don't, I understand. I don't think I could forgive anyone who would have killed my children." Tai Chin Prayer, July 27, 2017. Court records indicate that Prayer fatally stabbed Jamie Tackett during a drug deal that went wrong. Prayer later sought to have his death sentence overturned, arguing that his defense was compromised because his lawyers had relied on Wikipedia and on a disbarred attorney to handle his case. When asked by the prison warden on the night of his execution if he wished to make a final statement, Prayer responded, "First and foremost, I'd like to say justice has never advanced by taking a human life." He then expressed his enduring love for his wife and children, saying he would love them forever and always. "That's it," Prayer added. As the lethal dose of pentobarbital began to take effect, he took several deep breaths before starting to snore, with each breath gradually fading. Within a minute, all movement ceased. He was officially pronounced dead 19 minutes later. Robert Lynn Pruitt, October 12, 2017. Pruitt was convicted and executed for the 1999 murder of correctional officer Daniel Nagel at the McConnell unit in B County, Texas. He had been certified as an adult at age 16 and was already serving a 99-year sentence for his role in the murder of Ray Yarborough, which occurred when he was 15. Pruitt was tried alongside his father, Howard Stephen Sam Pruitt Sr., who received a life sentence for his involvement, and his brother, Howard Stephen Pruitt Jr., who was sentenced to 40 years. During the trial, Howard Sr. testified that neither of his sons participated in the killing, but despite this, Robert was convicted under Texas's law of parties, which holds individuals criminally responsible for murders committed by others when they are involved in the underlying crime. Correctional officer Daniel Nagel was repeatedly stabbed with a metal rod wrapped in tape, although an autopsy determined that his death was caused by a heart attack triggered by the assault. Prosecutors stated that the attack arose from an argument over a peanut butter sandwich that Pruitt attempted to bring into the recreation yard in violation of prison rules. In his final statement before execution, 34-year-old Pruitt acknowledged that he had hurt many people and had also been hurt by many. He expressed remorse and stated that he held no grudges. During the execution, Pruitt began chanting and appeared visibly frightened. "I've had to learn lessons in life the hard way," he said. "One day there won't be a need to hurt people." He addressed his friends who were watching the execution through a window, expressing his love for them. "I'm ready to go. Nighty-night, everybody. I'm done, Warden." As the lethal dose of sedative pentobarbital was administered, Pruitt began chanting, "Love, light, it's forever." His voice grew louder as he repeated the phrase, interspersed with obscenities, and he soon started shouting. His words began to slur as he slipped into unconsciousness. Pruitt was pronounced dead at 6:46 p.m., 29 minutes after the drug was administered. Ruben Cardenas Ramirez, November 8, 2017. Cardenas, 47, was executed by lethal injection for the abduction and fatal beating of his 16-year-old cousin, Mayra Laguna, from her family's apartment in February 1997. Multiple federal court appeals failed to stop his execution. Mayra Laguna was abducted from the bedroom she shared with her younger sister at her family's public housing apartment in McAllen, South Texas. In a police confession, Ruben Ramirez Cardenas admitted that he and a friend drove around with the high school student in his mother's car. He stated that he essayed her and then struck her when she resisted after he unbound her arms. After hitting her in the neck, Laguna began coughing blood and struggled to breathe. Cardenas said that after unsuccessfully trying to revive her, he tied her up and rolled her body down a canal bank. Her body was later discovered near a lake in the Rio Grande Valley in far south Texas. When the warden asked if he wanted to make a final statement, Cardenas replied, "No, sir." As the lethal dose of pentobarbital was administered, he took a few breaths and then began snoring. Within less than a minute, all movement ceased. He was pronounced dead 21 minutes later. Anthony Allen Shore, January 18, 2018. He was responsible for the deaths of 1 woman and 3 girls and was considered a serial killer active between 1986 and 2000. He became known as the tourniquet killer because of his use of a particular binding method involving a small stick to tighten or loosen a rope-like device similar to tools traditionally used in farming. Shore was born in Rapid City, South Dakota, to Robert and Deanna Shore. Both of his parents were in the military, and the family, which included Shore and his 2 younger sisters, moved frequently before eventually settling in Houston. Shore's parents fought constantly and had multiple extramarital relationships before divorcing in 1976. He later claimed that he experienced abuse from both parents during his youth. From a young age, Shore displayed troubling behavior, including harming animals and engaging in inappropriate conduct toward female classmates and younger friends of his sisters. In 1983, Shore married Jenna Lynn Worley, with whom he had 2 daughters, Amber and Tiffany. They divorced 10 years later. Shore then married Amy Lynch in 1997, but that marriage ended after she accused him of abuse. At his trial, Shore's daughters testified that their father had abused them. Shore's first known victim was 15-year-old Lori Tremblay, who was killed in 1986. Over the following years, several other young women and girls were similarly harmed, leading to their deaths. One victim was a young adult woman working as a nanny, and the others were minors. The crimes shared a distinct method, which eventually helped investigators connect the cases. In 1998, Shore was convicted of abusing his daughters and was required to provide a DNA sample to police. In 2000, investigators revisited one of the earlier cases and tested evidence, eventually matching it to Shore in 2003. He was arrested for the murder of the adult victim, and after an extended interrogation, he confessed to her death as well as several other cases, including incidents involving minors. Although he admitted to multiple incidents, prosecutors chose to charge Shore for the murder with the strongest forensic evidence. His trial began in late October 2004, and the jury found him guilty of capital murder. During sentencing, the only surviving victim testified, and the jury quickly recommended the death penalty, which Shore himself requested. He was formally sentenced to death on November 15, 2004. Before his execution, Shore stated, "I made my peace. Oh, I can feel that." William Earl Rayford, January 30, 2018. Rayford was placed on death row after he killed his ex-girlfriend, Carol Hall, in 1999. At the time, he was on parole for the murder of his ex-wife 13 years earlier under similar circumstances. Rayford had lived with Hall and her children in South Dallas for about 3 years. Around 2 months before the incident, Hall asked him to move out and eventually removed him from the home with the help of her uncle. On the morning of Tuesday, November 16, 1999, 46-year-old Rayford entered Hall's house with a key. An argument broke out over his possession of the key, escalating until Hall called for her 12-year-old son, Benjamin Thomas. When Benjamin intervened, Rayford attacked him. Hall fled the house barefoot and Rayford followed her. Benjamin ran to a neighbor's home to call the police. A witness, a bus driver, saw Rayford catch up with Hall outside and observed him forcefully carry her behind the house, after which she was no longer visible. Police arrested Rayford about an hour later in Hall's backyard. Hall's body was later discovered a short distance away in a drainage culvert. Rayford had a prior conviction for the 1986 murder of his wife, Gail Rayford, who had obtained a court order against him just days before her death. He served 8 years of a 23-year sentence and was paroled in December 1994. Hall's family stated that she knew of Rayford's previous conviction, but believed in giving people second chances. Benjamin Thomas and his 3 siblings watched Rayford's execution from a viewing room and chose not to speak to the media. During his final statement, Rayford said, "Carol didn't deserve what I did. Please try to find it in your heart to forgive me. I am sorry. It has bothered me for a long time what I have done. If this gives you closure and makes you feel better, I have no problem with this taking place." As the lethal injection was administered, Rayford lifted his head, repeated his apology, and said he was going home. He was pronounced dead at 8:48 p.m. John David Battaglia, February 1, 2018. He was executed by the state of Texas for the deaths of his 2 young daughters in May 2001. The act was described as a form of ultimate revenge against his estranged ex-wife Mary Jean Pearl, who had separated from him following a history of abusive behavior and violence. This is a case that needs to be discussed in a separate, longer video. On the day of his execution, no one occupied the convict side of the witness room. Mary Jean Pearl, the mother of his children, was seated on the victim's side to observe the execution. Upon noticing her presence, Battaglia greeted her saying, "Well, hi, Mary Jean," and then turned to the warden. "I'll see you all later. Bye. Go ahead, please." After the execution began, Pearl walked away from the glass partition and said, "I've seen enough of him." Rosendo Rodriguez III, March 27, 2018. He received the death penalty for the September 2005 essay and murder of 29-year-old Summer Baldwin. On September 13, 2005, the body of Summer Lee Baldwin was discovered in a suitcase at the Lubbock landfill. She had been assaulted and beaten, but her cause of death was positional asphyxia after being confined in the suitcase. Baldwin, a 29-year-old from Washington State, had been working as a sex worker in Lubbock when she disappeared 2 days earlier. She was also serving as a witness in a federal counterfeiting case which drew the attention of the FBI to her murder. At the time of her death, Baldwin was approximately 10 weeks pregnant, an aggravating factor considered during Rodriguez's 2008 trial. Rodriguez was connected to the killing through a UPC on the suitcase and was arrested by September 15. CCTV footage also showed him purchasing the suitcase at a nearby Walmart in the early hours of September 12. Investigators found a suitcase tag, a used condom, blood spatter from Baldwin, and latex gloves in Rodriguez's hotel room, which contained DNA from both him and Baldwin. In October 2006, the remains of Joanna Catherine Rogers were found in the same landfill after she had been missing since May 2004. During questioning, Rodriguez claimed that he and Baldwin entered the hotel room on the night of September 11 and engaged in consensual relations into the early hours of September 12, asserting that he strangled her after she allegedly pulled a knife on him. He gave a similar account regarding Rogers, claiming she became violent after he refused to pay her for relations with him. In his final statement, he urged an investigation into Powell and medical examiner Sridhar Natarajan, claiming their actions had contributed to multiple wrongful convictions. He also called for a boycott of Texas businesses until the state ends capital punishment. Please hit that subscribe button if you like my channel. See you next time. Bye-bye.